Before getting into today's video, I would like to share a message from today's sponsor, Baseus. If you follow the channel for a little bit, I've actually worked with Baseus several times in the past, and they've always sent fantastic products to me. And this time they sent an intelligent desktop fast charger. As it says, it's a fast charger that goes on your desktop or any surface that is intelligent. How is it intelligent, you might ask? Well, it comes with this cool little nifty panel, and it shares how much wattage it's distributing between the different devices you can be fast charging. And you can connect up to 5 different devices. There are 3 USB-C ports, 1 USB-A port, and 1 DC port. I've tested it out, I've plugged in several devices at a time, and they all charge very quickly, surprisingly so. The 240 watts allow for enough power to go into 5 different devices that need a healthy amount of charging, and it's kind of cool just to see how much energy it's sending to each particular device that you have connected. And yes, it can work with the Nintendo Switch as well, because the Nintendo Switch just takes a USB-C and it works just fine. And here I'll show for a bit of size comparison. It's not super big, but it's also not super tiny either. It is intended for a desktop, but I would also say it's compact enough that if you want to take it on a trip, that's a very easy thing to do. So I think this is a pretty cool device, especially if you want to be fast charging several devices at once, and you don't have a significant amount of outlets to do so. So this works really well, and I'll also add that nothing I had plugged in got hot, which is also something I appreciated. But those are my thoughts on this intelligent desktop fast charger with several different ports for several different types of devices. It is linked in the description below and also the pinned comment, so if you're interested, check it out. And thank you to Baseus for sponsoring today's video. Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are talking about the latest Nintendo Switch 2 reports that have definitely gone the rounds, have definitely caused waves of emotions across the Nintendo fanbase and community, and are certainly leaving a lot of things up for debate right now. The release timing for Switch 2 in 2024 apparently has been delayed. Based off these recent reports, the timing of when we should expect Switch 2 has been moved up. Supposedly Nintendo has internally delayed the system into early 2025, but also we apparently have some news on a Metroid marketing plan. And so how do these things tie together, and should we be buying into this? Is this legitimately happening? And if so, is there a silver lining? Is there something positive to take away from this? I think so, actually. And so we're going to be talking about all of that today. But before we go forward, we are still aiming to reach 50,000 subscribers, hopefully before Nintendo Switch 2 does come out. So if you enjoy my content, my perspectives and theories, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can enjoy the ride as we attempt to discuss Nintendo every day. So let's first start off by summarizing the story here, and then I'll be getting into my breakdown of what may or may not be going on, and then the silver lining here. A Brazilian journalist, Pedro Henrique Lute-Lipe, put out their own video where they talked about how they had several sources that were indicating that Nintendo had told them to now position their projects for a launch in Q1 2025, the calendar year, the first 3 months of 2025. And then Andy Robinson from Video Games Chronicle picked up on this story and had also heard similar chatter, so put out an initial report Friday morning. That will be February 16th for those that watch this video a fair bit into the future. And then Eurogamer, another reputable news site, followed up on this story saying that they had also heard similar chatter, but they were unable to concretely substantiate this information. However, then after that, more and more sources came out from the woodworks to Video Games Chronicle, where they then offered an update saying they heard from multiple credible sources that this is indeed what's going on, that there has been an internal delay. Switch 2 was supposed to come out in 2024, but it's been delayed to early 2025. And then what felt like the final nail in the coffin, Bloomberg came out and they said, Nintendo has told some publishing executives not to expect the console until March 2025 at the earliest. Now, what I find interesting about these stories is that when I go back to 2016 and I look at these same sites, these same venues, they all reported that the Nintendo NX, which we now know as a Switch, was going to be launching in 2016. But later into 2016, more reports came out from these venues saying that the system has been internally delayed and it has slipped into early 2017. Back then, at least, the system was delayed from holiday 2016 to early 2017 to get the launch lineup ready. The situation now is extremely similar. And so that brings me to another interesting tidbit from these stories here. According to Video Games Chronicle, one source suggested that the reason for this delay is to get the launch lineup ready. Now, I emphasize the one source because it is just one source. It could be wrong. There may be another reason why the Switch 2 is delayed, if it's delayed. And so that brings me to another point of conversation here. I've expected Switch 2 to launch in 2024 for a variety of reasons. But the main reason is because of all of these reputable sites reporting that this is what's going to happen. However, they're now reporting it's been delayed. So I feel it would be a bit inconsistent of me and also intellectually disingenuous if I didn't at least seriously consider this possibility that the system is going to be delayed, especially after these reports, if the reports in the first place were the main reason why I thought Switch 2 was launching in 2024. And so while it pains me to say it, I think most likely, yeah, Switch 2 is going to be coming out early 2025, based off what these reports are saying, and also based off what happened in the past, as I mentioned earlier. But the fact of the matter is, a delay has always been possible. I was just optimistic that it wouldn't happen, especially because I think Nintendo has a very strong and healthy development pipeline now. They come out with so many consistent games. We've seen them sitting on a lot of games, so they're not even rushing out to get some of their games out for the Switch. Tears of the Kingdom, we've been told by the producer of the Zelda series himself, Eiji Aonuma, that it was basically complete March of 2022. The game didn't come out until 14 months later. Mario Wonder was developed without a deadline in mind. Metroid Prime Remastered was content complete the summer of 2021. It didn't launch until early 2023. And Fire Emblem Engage was just something they were sitting on for a very long time as well. Nintendo has been sitting on games throughout the Switch generation. So to me, this notion that Nintendo needs to delay things further is a bit of a head scratcher for me. However, I think perhaps there's something to be said about it's not just having games ready, it's about having the games ready, the best possible games ready. And this is where I get to one of the silver linings here. Similar to how the expected release year was a year before the actual release due to a delay, if Nintendo is indeed delaying things to get the proper lineup ready, it may not just be about getting that one game to be the launch window game. It may be about getting an entire series of huge heavy hitters to kick off Switch 2 in 2025. So think about Switch's 2017 for a moment. Started off with one of the greatest games ever made in Breath of the Wild. Then we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, one of the best-selling games of all time. Then we got ARMS and Splatoon 2, and some other cool spin-offs and smaller titles from Nintendo, along with some third-party stuff. And then we got Mario Odyssey, which competed with Breath of the Wild for several Game of the Year awards. Those two games are two of some of the best games we've ever played and have ever come out. And then, after that, they gave us Xenoblade Chronicles 2, a fan favorite for many, myself included, a huge, amazing, epic RPG adventure. And so, perhaps Nintendo is setting things up for something like that, where they finally have a year that competes, if not surpasses, 2017. We've had years that have been pretty good throughout Switch, but nothing that just blatantly beats 2017. 2025 may finally be that year. And I think something that bodes well for this idea is that if you were a Wii U gamer and you moved on to Nintendo Switch, the graphical technological leap was not that vast. The big draw was the portability factor and just having games that were new and consistently coming out. In the case of Switch 2, we're going to be seeing a significant technological leap here. And so we may be getting, in terms of just good games and consistency similar to 2017, but the leap from a technological perspective is going to be far more significant. And so the hype and excitement and allure of what's to come when Nintendo finally launches this system may be their most exciting year ever. That's my opinion. You may consider that hyperbole, but I feel like I made a compelling case there. Now, something else I feel is that I should speak to the possibility that this rumor is wrong. Because it is possible it's wrong. Some people think that this might be leak bait, Nintendo making some sort of effort to throw leakers off the track. And maybe that's the case. I don't think it's likely, unfortunately. I want it to be the case, but I don't think it's likely. I don't think sites like Bloomberg, VGC, Eurogamer, when they're all reporting on it, I think it's based in truth. Plans can change, sure, but typically when something is delayed, they don't decide to, well, you know what, let's not delay it and come out sooner. It has happened, but it's unlikely. Nashweedle, a leaker who I think is pretty good, is saying that they haven't heard that Nintendo's trying to hunt down any insiders from what they've been able to investigate. However, they have been able to confirm with 2 developers that they know of that there has not yet been any internal communication for a Switch 2 delay to 2025. Now, this could be hope for Team 2024, but it also could be the case that since this info may be fairly new, they simply haven't been updated yet. Another possible explanation for what may be going on here is that there is going to be a delay in certain regions and not every region. So maybe it's the case that, say for example, in Brazil, we see Switch 2 release early March, but in North America, it releases holiday 2024. Switch didn't come out in Brazil until 2020. It's possible, but because of the amount of reports we're seeing, I'm not sure this is enough of a counter argument. However, there is something else going on that definitely has me scratching my head here, because it is expected that a partner showcase will be airing next week. And this is a smaller Nintendo Direct presentation that will likely just have some third-party announcements. It's not something as significant as a typical Nintendo Direct or even a typical Nintendo Direct Mini. And given that we're already in this latter half of February, this is concerning for the type of announcements we've been getting from Nintendo for this year. And what we've seen so far isn't exactly hype-inducing for the majority of the fan base. Another Code Recollection and Mario vs. Donkey Kong are not going to be big sellers and are not extremely critically acclaimed. I'm not saying they're bad, but they're not considered to be extremely good either, just solid. And beyond Princess Peach Showtime in March, we don't have any set release dates for any other games. There are a couple games we know about, but they don't have set release dates yet. So if these reports had not come out and we had just seen this partner showcase, let's ignore the rumors that there was supposed to be a Switch 2 reveal in March. I would have thought that this partner showcase would be a very obvious sign that Nintendo is gearing up for Switch 2. Because putting out just a partner showcase in the latter half of February, that's not the right amount of announcements we've come to expect from Nintendo by this point in the year. But if there's a big Switch 2 reveal in March, then, maybe that kind of makes a bit more sense. Because something else that has come from these stories is that, supposedly, a Switch 2 reveal is still expected in March, and a blowout in June. Now, this may have changed. A lot of these different insiders are trying to reach out to find out if that has changed, if the plan for a March reveal has been moved up. Because it does seem like this delay is a recent thing that just happened. And so the information about a partner showcase in February and a Switch 2 reveal in March may be outdated info. So the Switch 2 reveal may have been moved up here. But it's also possible, if we do get this partner showcase, as leaked by the most reliable leaker Pioro, maybe we are still getting that Switch 2 reveal in March. And so this can mean a few different things. One, the reports are wrong, Switch 2 is still coming out this year. I think that's the most unlikely outcome. Two, we're still getting an exciting Switch 2 reveal in March, and Nintendo is just going to be hyping us up for a whole year. And so that's another potential silver lining. Even though Switch 2 is coming out March of 2025, the reality situation is that's only really pushing things up by 4 to 6 months. That's not that big of a deal, and if Nintendo's still going to be showcasing different games and the system throughout the year, that at least gives us something to talk about and be excited for what's to come. Now, another possibility is that this Switch 2 reveal is just like a press release statement or some sort of Twitter announcement where they say, hey, the next generation of Nintendo is on its way, early 2025 or something like that, and so they don't really give us much information, and they just say more details soon. That's possible, right? So maybe we do get the Switch 2 reveal, but it's not really like a cool trailer or anything like that. But we would still get Switch 2 news later in the year. We would still learn about the next 3D Mario. We would still learn about maybe Mario Kart. Maybe they hint at the Zelda remake, what I've been theorizing might be Ocarina of Time remake. We shall see. It's just a theory. And then there's also Metroid Prime 4. Now, Metroid Prime 4 is a curious case here. Because, on the one hand, a lot of these reports are indicating that all the big games are being saved for Switch 2 next year, and so this year is looking to be a little dry in terms of big releases, but there will be a lot of consistent smaller releases. Now, Pedro Henrique Lute Lipe did specify on Family Boards that they have only heard of smaller releases for this year, but that doesn't mean that there won't be any big releases for this year. So for example, maybe they don't know anything about Metroid Prime 4, and maybe Metroid Prime 4 is actually a Switch 1 only title and it's not being saved as a cross-gen title. To slightly back up this idea, Nate the Hate has recently said that they've only heard about a Switch 1 title so far. They're not saying there isn't a Switch 2 version, they're just saying they haven't heard of it. If I'm going to offer my opinion here though, I think there is going to be a cross-gen version of Metroid Prime 4. So, now the question I have that I'm uncertain on, do we get this enhanced version of Metroid Prime 4 first? Do they save Metroid Prime 4 as a big cross-gen title for Switch 2, and so we wait until 2025 to finally play Metroid Prime 4? Or do they release the Switch 1 version of Metroid Prime 4 first, and then next year they just released an enhanced version? That part I am unsure of, but I personally believe that, yeah, there will be a cross-gen version of Metroid Prime 4. I don't believe it makes sense to come out with a Switch 1 version of Metroid Prime 4 this year and then release an enhanced version next year. To me, it would be kind of like releasing Twilight Princess on the Nintendo GameCube back in 2005, and then when the Nintendo Wii came out in 2006, releasing Twilight Princess again with the enhanced motion controls. That doesn't make too much sense to me, and from the stories we're hearing about Nintendo saving a lot of their big releases for 2025, I feel like Metroid Prime 4 could be one of them, but it's uncertain right now. Now, on the note of Metroid, we did get some new information about Metroid from Jeff Grubb. In a recent podcast that will be linked in the description below, it's a great listen. Early on, Jeff talks about how he has this source that told him a while back that there's supposed to be a marketing campaign that should be starting for Metroid in May. Now, Jeff makes sure to point out that while this source has an incredible track record and super reliable, plans can change and this information is pretty old. And when it comes to these recent Switch 2 reports of the delay, this is apparently very recent information. And so that info Jeff Grubb heard about the Metroid campaign starting in May, that may have changed if Switch 2 is no longer coming out in 2024. And if you think about it, if they're going to start a marketing campaign for Metroid in May, and Switch 2 is supposed to come out in the second half of the year, September, October, or November, that would be the right amount of time to start the marketing push, right? So maybe they're thinking about putting out Metroid Prime 2 in May, and then Metroid Prime 3 maybe around the same time, or they showcase Metroid Prime 4 fully around that time, and they lead up to a holiday release. That may have been pushed up now. If Prime 4 is a Switch 1 only title, then maybe we still see that marketing campaign. But if Prime 4 is a Switch 2 title, then maybe this marketing campaign has been pushed up. But as I said earlier, a 4 to 6 month delay is just a 4 to 6 month delay. I think we're still probably going to see Metroid Prime 4 this year. I still think it makes sense for Nintendo to put out, say, for example, Metroid Prime 2 Remastered, maybe even Metroid Prime 3. Maybe they space them out a bit. Maybe we get Metroid Prime 2 in May or sometime this summer, and Prime 3 in the fall, and then Prime 4 is a part of the early launch window for Switch 2. That wouldn't be that bad. I don't mind waiting another 11 to 14 months or something to play Metroid Prime 4 if they start telling us about Metroid Prime 4. See, when it came to Tears of the Kingdom, while we did have to wait a long time, we still had a few trailers to look at and imagine and get excited about and theorize and have discussions for. For me, that was part of the experience. The theorizing, the discussions, that was fun. And so this goes beyond just Metroid Prime 4, but once we start to see some of these games, even if these reports are true, we're going to have a lot to talk about. It's going to be a fun year, just in terms of the speculation and discussions of the big Nintendo games on the way. I think we're still going to see 3D Mario and Metroid and Mario Kart and more, and so that's exciting to think about. They may not be coming out this year, but we won't have to wait that much longer when you consider the grand scheme of things. Now, I do have some concerns though, because I do think that with Switch 2 coming out early 2025, if this is indeed the case, we do not know for sure, this strongly suggests that Nintendo's going to experience a 4th year of declining sales. Yes, Switch sales are great given that we are in the 7th year of the console, but they have been going down year by year. Hardware and software sales are trending downwards, as great as they are. And so typically when we have these trends, the drop-off becomes more significant every single year. And what's unfortunate is that if we're only getting smaller releases throughout this year, Nintendo's not going to have something like a Tears of the Kingdom that's going to sell 10 million in 3 days, and also see a big boost from the second most successful animated movie of all time, that being the Mario movie, and it also helping out with significant Mario sales, including another really strong seller in Mario Wonder. They're not going to have that this year of 2024. There's going to be Pokemon, sure, but outside of Pokemon, they're probably not going to have any huge sellers like that that are going to help, and so 2024 is going to see even worse sales for Nintendo, and if Switch 2 is coming out in March, while that may be a nice little blip, it's just going to be a blip at the very end of the fiscal year, the last few weeks, not even a full month most likely. So that's going to hurt them financially. However, at the end of the day, Nintendo's still doing extremely well. While they are experiencing declining sales, these declining sales are still fantastic sales. And if this is all to prep them for an extremely healthy, strong launch in 2025, that may be the greatest year ever from Nintendo, or at least in that conversation, then it may be worth it for them. And so I'm going to end with a little bit of conversation about the lineup of games we could be seeing throughout this year. I mentioned Metroid earlier, it's a possibility. I'm thinking Metroid Prime 2 and 3 are shoo-ins. I'm also thinking that 2024 is the year of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD. So I think we're getting those. Maybe they'll be announced soon. We shall see. Maybe in a March Nintendo Direct, because we're probably going to have to get some news soon because there's a lot of games to announce for the months after March. So that may still happen. There is the rumored F-Zero GX Remaster. There is the rumored Fire Emblem Remake. Those may come. There are going to be Pokemon game announcements, and we already know about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. So while the bulk of the games coming out this year may be remakes and remasters, a lot of these are remakes and remasters I really want. And so we have a lot of cool remakes and remasters to play this year, with maybe a couple new games that aren't super huge but are kind of fun, like Pokemon and Princess Peach Showtime. Well, Pokemon would be a big seller, but I just mean in terms of like hype, I guess, for the core Nintendo fan base. And we also just have the excitement and the things to talk about when it comes to Switch 2 once they finally start showing these things off within the next few months, hopefully. This year's not going to be that bad. Things have only been pushed up by 4 to 6 months, assuming these reports are true. But the games and good times are still on the way. But what do you think? What do you make of all these things going on right now? How do you feel about 2024 and 2025? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andre's Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.